Hello, this is Will the Werewolf, and this is really exciting. We're taking a break from the Viking Wolf for a moment, and we're going to bring it back to the future. Yeah, we're going to do something that's really exciting. I'm working today with a co-conspirator, Mr. Gregory Alexander Sharp, who is a renowned author, and we're going to do something really cool. You've just got to see if you can spot it. I'll tell you where it was at the end, or if it was, or if you care, or whatever. But so, what we're about to do is something truly innovative, truly creative, and as far as I know, it's going to be utterly unique in both literature and podcasting. We will blur the lines between the two art forms, intertwine two works of fiction, take liberties with reality that create a paradox within the fiction. Now you can see how good Gregory is because he actually wrote that. So that's how good Gregory is. So I hope you spot it. If you don't spot it, then I'm going to tell you at the end, so you have to go all the way to the end and listen. So, here we go. This is, Werewolf the Podcast. Now, I know what you're thinking. The girl from Ipanema's playing. Will must be in a lift or an elevator. You know, it's a callback to the other episodes. Fetid farting. Never mind. I'm not sure with this wonderful, diverse international audience what I should call a lift, as we call them. Welcome to those in the Philippines, New Zealand, Canada, Mexico, and of course the USA. If I missed your homeland, I apologise. There are lots of people listening around the world, so I'll get to you, I promise. You are phenomenal. Please follow me on whatever platform you're doing and do that, and then notifications and things. That would be wonderful. And share it with your well, don't show it your family, eh? Sometimes this is not going to go down well with your family. I don't know. It's up to you. In Britain, we call these metal boxes on a string that go up and down in buildings lifts. Having said all that, I'm not in one. Yeah, I know. The girl from Ipanema is a callback to many episodes that involve lifts, elevators, his back, or elevar, depending on your language or location. See? Did some research there. I'm on a call. I'm being made to wait to torture music. I think they play this kind of thing to mindfuck you and get you to ring off. I think that they had the crackles and the pops, the static and the poorly timed breaks of someone telling me that this call is important to them, to get you to get the fuck off the line and send an email that they can ignore and pretend they lost if the question happens to be a difficult one which no one in the department can be asked to answer. Only my thoughts on that though. Good job this is not a suicide prevention line. Da 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 da. Apparently I'm insane though, because I actually quite like this song. Oh, excuse me, sorry. They're on the other line. I need to take this. Yeah. Oh yeah, hello. Is this the British Museum? Uh-huh. Yes, excellent. My name is Will Beast, and I'm just making a general inquiry because you have certain items of mine that have great family value, and I would like them back, please. Yeah, that's right. I would like them back. No, I don't think you understand that they're mine and I want them back. Okay. Okay. Could I speak to someone who can help me then, please? No, I don't want to send an email. I want to collect the pieces as soon as possible. Yep. Your website is lovely, but I want to do this as a phone call, thanks. Not have someone not understand me in text. Sorry, double negative there, which is not clear in itself. But you see, I can become pretty irate at times and would like those I communicate with to be able to sense it in the tone of my voice. I want them to understand how much I care about this issue. I worry a repeated exclamation mark on an email may not help them realise that I am incredibly perturbed. No, I am afraid you're wrong. It is possible to reclaim things. I know that I can, and I know that one way or another, I will. Could I please speak to someone who can help me? Please. Certainly I can wait. Mm-hmm. Hello. Yes. sorry. Nice to speak to you. Yeah, that's it. You got it. I want my pieces back, please. No, I know that it's difficult to believe, but the pair were my ancestors, so I would really like to have them back. Oh yeah, it's a pair of wolf's head brooches. Just excuse me a moment. Let me just grab this piece of paper I've written stuff on. There they go. I think they're labelled as 1921 1101.86. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, one is on display. Yes, they're mine. They belong to an ancestor. No, I can't prove they are specifically mine, but I'm willing to pay. Maybe we can find a way to do this, like behind the scenes, if you know what I mean. With all the stuff you have, 2 brooches are not going to be missed, are they? Get what I'm saying? I am giving you a vocal wink here. Wink. What do you mean I cannot just buy them? Name the price. Well, you obviously need the money according to your website. You're basically begging people to donate. I'm willing to donate a considerable amount of cash to get them. That might fall into your pocket. Why can't I buy them? You did. Hey, I'm trying to be nice here. You are being very pedantic now. I know you did not buy them, but someone bought them for the collection. Are you telling me they did not buy this from a private collector? Because then your information linked to the piece is a lie. Okay, no, that's fine. I suppose I will have to do this the British Empire way, the thing that they do, and I'll come and steal them. And then I will display them and say they're mine, and then other people can come and try and take them if they're tough enough. No, it's not a fucking wind-up. Yes, you have stolen items on display. I can give examples that you may have noticed around the place. I mean, some of them are no small thing. You may have seen India's Amaravati marbles, or even the Greek Parthenon marbles. You can hardly miss them, can you? Have you heard of the Rosetta Stone? Quite an important piece, that, I believe. That belongs to Egypt. You are harbouring stolen goods that makes you an accessory to the original crime of stealing them. Hello? Hello? Oh, for fuck's sake. They could have let, at least finish the tune. Well, Fen, it looks like we're going to London to get your heritage back, the British Empire way. We're going a-sacking and a-looting. Okay, let's carry on. As you may have heard in the past few episodes, we are currently exploring the Posit's past. My wolf soul Fenrir has been around for a fucking long time and has been part of several people's lives. I suppose he's been more part of people's deaths than lives, really. But I hope you know what I mean. I'd learnt that Fen had been bonded for several hundred years with one of the greatest Jarls of the Ostman and had done loads of conquering and shit. He'd gone west, south and east to go raiding and a raping, because that was what those folk did for fun back then. This was well before TV, when you had to make your own sex and violence. It was not simply piped into your house 24 hours a day. Hopefully you've listened to the episodes from 101. Have you? Have you listened? I found out that there was some bits and pieces we could have for our own private collection here at home that belong to us. They kind of, can I say they belong to an ancestor of ours? Can I call them an ancestor? I suppose I can. We found 2 wolf head brooches given to him by his 4th wife to tie back his cloak. Fenrir had fond memories of her, so it would be my pleasure to go and get these brooches and return them to their rightful owner, him, and because we were linked, then they would be ours. As you just heard in the conversation, I had tried to do it correctly. I had offered to buy them off them, and I would have been really generous if they'd allow me to do that. I mean, these things had been stolen from my friend, so not to justify my actions or anything, I was in essence buying back my own stolen goods. Yeah, that's right. I was buying back what belonged to me. The British Empire had done its usual and nicked things from other folks and cultures and stuck them up for display in their hallowed halls and said that they own them now. Well, Mr. British Empire folk and British Museum folk, that was not the case. They were mine. Sorry, ours. And I wanted them back. This would mean a mission to London, which of course would mean that I could go and have some fun in that fair city as well. But that obviously was only secondary to seeking justice for my poor abused werewolf soul. Who the fuck did these culture stealers think they were? Oh, and as a by and by, the British Museum is also one of my favourite destinations to have a nosy around when heading down that way. I love a bit of stolen history and adore the Egyptian stuff that they had there. Those marbles they nicked were pretty awesome too. I mean, this was obviously not another excuse to go down and see something cool, though the new Persian exhibition had been on my to-do list for an overextended length of time. Yes, anyway, back to the real reason for my visit. Family honour, not an excuse to be a dick. Family honour is important, is it not? I told Malcolm that I would be away for the weekend and that we should ready my travel bag, just for a weekend in London. I had a number of packs available for different scenarios, from my angelic tourist away day bag, number 1, holding no more than the clothes for exploring the streets and the architecture of a new place, to number 10, my bag of demonic glee, mostly latex and torture tools with a smattering of class A's and evil intent. I would take bag 4. With bag 4, I had everything I needed to enter the museum doors, but also everything I needed to kill, maim, and kick down the door at the museum. A good compromise, I felt. Oh, and now it was time to choose the car for the journey. Luxury and comfort would be nice with a little bit of oomph, as we say in Britain. The drive would be busy and tedious, and I would want something with personality, yet the ability to blend into the background of the city and its life. I liked the new Defender a lot. Oh boy, I do. But I needed a vintage car with a little more character. The E-Type. The E-Type. I always meant to drive it, but it might get dusty, rained on, or even looked at wrong by someone. Couldn't have that. The Lotus Escort. Probably not luxurious enough. The Rails. Too much luxury, a slow wallower. And there she was, my 1966 Daimler V8 saloon in silver. She was a beauty and would churn out those miles in style. She'd been bought as a wreck, so it was a little played with and tweaked to give her a much more modern feel on the road. Her handling was improved and modern electronics had been added for it to, actually work. But apart from that, it would just be me and the posit on the road trip. It was a wonderful car, and Fen loved it because it had huge leather-coated bench seats front and back, much better ergonomically designed for the busy wolf around town to lie upon, while Dickhead here does all the driving. What gets me is his need for comfort. When he's an ethereal and completely non-corporeal beastie, why the need for physical comfort? Fen, why... No, you're not answering, okay. Malcolm had phoned ahead and booked a suite at the 5-star hotel Los Guerres. I assume you say it like that. Los Guerres. I'd never stayed before, but it was within walking distance of the museum and some other amusements that I could enjoy for an evening, and seemed pretty damn pretty, if you know what I mean. Usually I would stay at the Savoy, but sadly they had no suites at such late notice, so I would have to try somewhere new. Once in Loscar and settled, it would be time to meet my accomplices for the caper that I would perform. I had friends. No, friends. No, acquaintances. No, not acquaintances. Fearful folk in London that would hook me up with some people I would need for the distraction required as part of the job. Down in the bar, I met Big Al, a face of London, and 2 thugs, Baz and Daz, 2 obviously dumb fucks that could easily be used as stooges if required. They were young and wearing the, excuse me how I say this word, I'm going to do my best, obligatory uniform, not bad, of the London football casual. They had Stone Island jackets, Fred Perry polos, and blue Adidas gazelles. Big Al was a face. He was one of the recognisable members of the London underworld on his manor. Al had the neck tattoo back in the day when it meant that you were a psycho with whom you should not meet eyes with. Not the neck tattoo of these days, which means you're popular on the spoken word circuit, but so poor you work as a barista in the vegan coffee shop. Although for me, a night of fucking slam poetry by one of these cunts was much more frightening than Big Al. Al was wearing a plum suit and had the mannerisms of Tommy Cooper doing his magic show. If you don't know who Tommy Cooper is, please YouTube him. He's so funny in his red fez. An interesting fact about Tommy is that he died on stage of a heart attack, and because of the escapades that underlie his acts, the audience thought it was like part of the show. They thought he was doing it on purpose. They watched him fucking die, think it was a joke. It was the perfect way for that man to die. Al had done prison and more in his time and was feared by everyone here. He had met me during my army years and was afeared of me, meaning he responded if I phoned or messaged. The job was easy, really. Malcolm had located the room where the undisplayed brooch was stored. I knew exactly where it was filed and even had the passkey to enter the room. That would be the easy one. The second brooch was on display, so Daz and Baz would do what they did best and cause distraction by causing a little bit of bother, as they say down here. Security and police would attend to them while I did the simple smash and grab. In the words of the meerkats of the famous British advert for Compare the Market, simples. Not a good impression, I'm sorry. I mean, have you ever heard in these stories of a simple plan that fucks up? Have I ever done something like that before? Everything always works out right, does it not? For Will and Fenrir. If you've not been to the British Museum, it has to be on your list of sites you must see. Just the building itself is a sight to see. The building is a masterpiece of architecture, and walking up to the entrance with Daz and Baz seemed like bringing the heathens to my version of heaven. The building was initially built in 1759 and was all pillars and columns and modern Greek architecture, so beautiful, and has very little concrete in sight. The museum is very famous and has the world's largest store of objects of note. It also has many famous patrons, including the artist formerly known as Prince. You know, King Charles himself. I tried initially to instill the majesty of what they were seeing, but it fell on dumb ears. No, let us rephrase that. It landed on the dumbest of ears. So I ditched the asses at the entrance as they practiced intimidating the tourists with the over-enthusiastic smoking of fags. I told them to prepare for my message when the diversion was needed. The first bit was surprisingly easy, disappointingly so. No one asked any questions as I made my way through the place with a fake pass and a simple passkey. I found the brooch stored away and put it in my pocket. It was that easy. Especially with Fen, my posit as a watchdog. I'm sorry, Fen, I know. Sorry. Watch Wolf. Is that better? Okay. So sensitive. My watch Wolf scoping out the path ahead. It was as easy as stealing a baby from Candy, and that Candy woman is a proper dumb bitch, so as you can imagine it was really easy. I then wandered on to the next site I needed to address. I had brought my current novel with me to hide behind and not get disturbed by others as though bored and waiting for someone else in the corner. I do like a good werewolf novel, and this was a very good one. The cabinet with the brooch in it was a little out of the way and secluded by an exit to another room. I had no CCTV covering me, so I expected it would be easy enough to take when suddenly a man started to walk directly towards me. The man, well, he was incredible to behold, looking both like he worked here and that he should or could have been a possible exhibit of the museum itself. I thought at first that I'd been rumbled, and I stood there next to the posit ready to go full wolf and fuck up the world when I realised as he stopped close to me with a nod that he was on the phone and showing a certain level of distress. I was open-mouthed as I looked at him. He was all tweed and red velvet waistcoat with white hair and white goatee. This guy should be preserved nationally as a person of great British historical significance. His importance to British culture became more apparent as I heard him speak. I was mesmerised by the man. When I grew up, which I suppose I would not do because of the werewolf thing, I would want to be him. I listened to the conversation. I couldn't help myself pretending my focus was really on the book.
Yes, but not for much longer,
he said to the person on the other end of the phone while smiling and simultaneously apologising with a nod for his uptake of my personal space. I was in the only quiet spot for his call, and if I'd not been mesmerised by him, I should really have given him the space to talk on his phone. That was the polite thing to do, but I had to know what he was talking about. It was anachronistic to see this modern technology in this man's hand. It just didn't seem to fit, and I could see his slight discomfort at my not moving on. He turned his back to me and hunched a little as he tried to speak quietly to the person on the other end of the phone.
Yes, of course I can swing by Marshwood and pick him up. Be good to see both you and Charlie,
he replied to the person on the phone. I needed to know where Marshwood was. Who were these people he was going to see? I wanted to meet them and experience them. Would they be like him?
Oh, my dear boy, yes, of course I can. I'll leave immediately. This very instant. Send me the postcode, will you? There's a good chap. Just what seems to be the matter? Young Charlie always strikes one as being such a solid and dependable sort of fellow. Whatever could be bothering him so much?
He told the phone as he turned to me again, making eye contact and smiling. I looked at him in semi-worship as I forgot why I was there. This was too... cool? No, that's not the right word for this situation. What would he use instead of cool? Goodness, I am so fucking uneducated. He would use, remarkable. Yeah, remarkable. The man was getting flummoxed. Yeah, that's a good one, flummoxed.
Oh, what, Nicholas? That there are what?
There was a long pause as the man listened, and then I could see him try to comprehend what had been said.
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm still here, Nicholas, my dear, dear boy. And no, actually. No, I'm afraid it doesn't sound ridiculous in the slightest. It sounds at the very least very upsetting. Very upsetting indeed. Of course, I'll leave immediately and bring him to Radcliffe Hall as quickly as I can manage.
He had taken a pen and paper from an inside pocket. I was a little disappointed to see that it was just a common and garden fucking ballpoint that he had in his hand, but I suppose what was I expecting? Like a long feather quill or something, and he was now busy writing down the postcode. He looked at me, watching him.
Bit of a coincidence, old boy. You having a copy of Il Lupo there?
I looked at the book in my hand as though seeing it for the first time.
One of my close friends seems to have become quite convinced that he's a werewolf. Can you believe it?
He held eye contact with me, and I realised at this point that it was not a rhetorical question and that I would have to give him some sort of answer. Werewolves, they're just all made-up nonsense for stories, aren't they? I said, waving the book at him. He smiled as he returned his items to his pocket.
Well, yes. That's a very reasonable perspective, I suppose.
He harumphed and then straightened his jacket.
Any good, is it?
He asked. I'd already forgotten about the book and stood open-mouthed, not knowing what to say.
The book, dear boy. The book,
he repeated. Oh, aye, yeah, it's brilliant, old boy. I tried. Will's in love came into my head from my sarcastic wolf soul. The man nodded, and I expected him to click his heels in the salute of the cavalry officer, but he just turned and left. It took me a moment while I dealt with the loss of this force of heritage, before Fen reminded me why we were here, so I messaged the Azzies. Daz and Baz, on receiving my text, began to get into an overzealous argument about the use of the sconce in architecture. I had to tell Baz what a sconce was, and that it was not a Scottish nonce. For our foreign audience in the south of England, a nonce is an older man with the wrong kind of affinity for small children, so I could see his logic. Scottish, nonce, sconce... You see, it does sort of make sense. Baz was making the argument that the sconce was an integral part of the load-bearing structure of any building, and that without them, that certain parts of the said building were unlikely to be able to bear weight. Daz had made the argument that they were an affectation of the architect or stonemason, depending on the year of the building, had no fundamental role in carrying the weight of the building. This had soon turned into fisticuffs in the atrium and was causing all sorts of issues until some 10 minutes later, the police arrived. Baz and Daz shook hands after being ejected from the museum. Neither wanted to press charges, and they both accepted that the sconce may have either role, or both, in such a large structure, as a museum. That they were really sorry that they had caused any trouble, and not to tell their dear old Mars that they had been such a silly set of sausages and had an argument. Please, officer. That 10 minutes gave me long enough to do my bit. The area was now mostly clear of people, so I gently ripped open the case. We checked if the case would be alarmed and found that it would not be. Another simple job was done. I reached into the case, grabbed the brooch from its pin place and secluded it with the other about my person. I turned to leave to see a little dark-skinned girl looking at me. Shit. I don't know much about children, so it could have been anywhere between 3 and 12? I have no idea. Fenn's voice came into my head. Kill it. We need no witnesses. I laughed and knew he was trying to get some trouble to kick off because this was all so boring for him. I smiled at the child, bending over and putting my fingers on my lips. Shh, I sounded as I reached to tousle her thick dark hair. She smiled as I walked past, my hand still on her head. As I turned the corner and just before moving on, I quickly twisted her head, feeling the next vertebrae separate with a satisfying crunch. The body became limp in my hand as I threw it under the cabinet where I'd just got the brooch from. I reasoned that it may be some time before they find that, and the lost brooches will then be of a minor consequence in comparison to the murder. I think the police effort would go into the dead child, not the brooches, meaning that they were, the brooches that is, now ours. I always like to end my stories with a little twist, sometimes a literal little twist. No witnesses. I laughed, making my way towards the exit. So, did you spot it? Did you? Right, here we go. Will is carrying Gregory's book, Il Lupo, which contains the conversation he witnesses Ernest having on the phone. So Ernest was having a conversation with Frobisher, which is in his book, at the British Museum. Have you got this? While I'm listening in the podcast, and we've integrated the stories. And we didn't even use a flipping time machine. I mean, that's quite amazing, isn't it? I don't know if anyone else has ever done it, but pretty cool. Anyway, having said that, I hope you got it. You can buy Gregory's book, Il Lupo, from all good bookshops and some shitty ones if you want. It is very well written, and Gregory actually did not only write that, but he starred as one of his characters today, Ernest, at the British Museum. Yep, that was Gregory. There's a link to Il Lupo in the description. You can also get links to follow the podcast in the description. Find me on most social media platforms. Well, those that can be asked being on. Big thanks and love to you all. So that's all we have time for this evening. So it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Good night.